What are you willing to do to achieve the life you claim you want? Do you truly understand what sacrifice means? Or have you only toyed with the idea of ambition while clinging to comfort? Do you crave greatness, yet secretly fear the price that greatness demands? The question is not what you desire. The question is, what are you willing to become to make it real? Human beings worship the idea of victory, but despise the methods it takes to win. Society cheers for champions, but condemns the ruthless roads they walked to ascend. We glorify the empire, but spit venom at the emperor who bled to build it. Niccolo Machiavelli, the man forever branded as the dark prince of philosophy, wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." And another, "The ends justify the means." These words have echoed across centuries, not because they are comfortable, but because they reveal a truth most people are too fragile to accept. Let's start with the truth that society hides under layers of morality. Human beings are selfish creatures. Civilization itself was not built on kindness. It was built on blood, conquest, deception, and strategy. Every skyscraper stands on bones. Every nation was carved out by war. Every corporation that dominates the world today climbed to power by crushing rivals, bending rules, and exploiting weaknesses. And yet, once the victor secures their throne, society rewrites history to paint them as visionary, genius, or hero. The ugly path is erased, and only the polished legend remains. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance. The tension between what we claim to value and what reality demands. We say we want honesty, but we celebrate the billionaire who bends laws. We say we want kindness, but we cheer for the fighter who shows no mercy in the ring. You see, morality is a mask. It shifts depending on who's wearing it. And when power changes hands, morality is rewritten by the victor. That is why Machiavelli said, "Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see, but few can feel." The world does not care how you achieved your victory. It only cares that you stand victorious. Look at history. Alexander the Great was not called great because he was merciful. He burned cities, enslaved populations, and marched his army to exhaustion. His empire was soaked in blood, but it reshaped civilization. Look at modern business. Steve Jobs was celebrated as a visionary, but behind closed doors he was ruthless, demanding, even cruel to those who worked under him. He cared little for being liked, only for being effective. Today, the world remembers his innovations, not the trail of broken relationships. Look at sports. Michael Jordan was not just a basketball player, he was a predator on the court. His teammates feared him, his opponents despised him. But his hunger for victory was unmatched. He sacrificed friendships, approval, and even parts of his humanity for greatness. And now, he is eternal. In politics, in war, in art, in business, the pattern repeats. Those who achieve greatness do so not by playing fair, but by playing to win. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, introduced the idea of the shadow, the dark, suppressed part of the human psyche. It is the part of you that wants power, control, dominance, revenge. Society teaches you to hide it, to bury it deep. But Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The man who denies his shadow becomes weak. He convinces himself he is good, but secretly he is envious of those who dared to embrace their darker instincts and build something with them. To accept the principle that the ends justify the means is to acknowledge your shadow, and to wield it with discipline. Not to be mindlessly cruel, but to be strategically ruthless. not to seek evil for its own sake, but to use whatever weapon is required for the war you are fighting. One of Machiavelli's most misunderstood lessons is his view on cruelty. He wrote, "Well-used cruelty, if one may speak well of evil, may be called that which is exercised once for all, and is necessary to one's security, and then not persisted in, but turned to the greatest possible advantage." Think about this. He did not glorify cruelty for its own sake. He glorified decisive cruelty. When mercy would lead to weakness and destruction, he advised cruelty as a form of protection, a tool for building stability. In psychology, this connects with the principle of a necessary suffering. Every transformation requires pain. The man who avoids pain avoids growth. The leader who avoids cruelty ends up crueler in the long run, because indecision causes more suffering than decisive surgical action. You might say, "But I'm not a king, not a conqueror, not a CEO." Wrong. You are the ruler of your own life, and if you continue to live by soft, convenient morals, you will be ruled by those who are willing to embrace harsher truths. The world is a battlefield. When you go to work, you are in competition. When you pursue your dream, you are at war with mediocrity. When you set out to build your body, your career, your empire, you are not playing games. The means you choose will determine whether you succeed or fail. If you cling to comfort, to approval, to being liked, you will be crushed by those who are willing to be hated, feared, and misunderstood in the pursuit of their vision. Does this mean you must live without compassion? No. But compassion must serve strategy, not replace it. A general who hesitates to sacrifice soldiers when necessary loses the entire army. A leader who tries to please everyone pleases no one. A man who tries to live purely by kindness will be devoured by those who are not so restrained. True compassion sometimes requires ruthlessness. A surgeon cuts open the body to save it. A parent disciplines the child to prepare him for the world. A leader may act with coldness today to protect the lives of many tomorrow. Think of Elon Musk, admired by millions, despised by millions. He takes risks, breaks rules, and is willing to appear reckless to achieve his vision. He has been called manipulative, arrogant, and even cruel. Yet without him, would space travel be accelerating? Would the electric car industry have leapt forward at this pace? Think of Winston Churchill. He made decisions in World War II that cost lives, but preserved civilization itself. History judged him as a savior, not as a butcher, because the end, defeating tyranny, justified the horrific means of total war. Think of the samurai in Japan who lived by the code of Bushido. Honor was everything, but honor did not mean weakness. It meant discipline, courage, and sometimes merciless execution of duty. Their compassion existed within the framework of necessity, not weakness. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, the fundamental drive within all living things to grow, to dominate, to impose form upon chaos. He believed morality was often a disguise used by the weak to restrain the strong. Ask yourself, when you say, "That's not right, that's not fair," is it morality speaking or weakness disguised as morality? Is it your conscience, or is it fear that someone else is willing to go further than you? The man who suppresses his will to power lives in quiet resentment. The man who embraces it, even with all its darkness, creates worlds. To live by the principle that the ends justify the means is to become untouchable. Not because you are cruel for the sake of cruelty, but because you understand the game of life at its deepest level. You stop seeking universal approval. You stop begging for validation. You stop caring whether they call you good or evil. Instead, you ask only one question. Did I achieve what I set out to achieve? The artist who sacrifices comfort, relationships, and sanity to create his masterpiece. History will forgive his methods because his art endures. The warrior who is merciless on the battlefield will later be remembered as the defender of his people. The leader who is ruthless in decision will be praised as visionary by those who benefit from the victory. So I ask you again, what are you willing to do? What pain will you endure? What darkness will you embrace? What sacrifices will you accept in order to live the life you claim to want? History will not remember your excuses. It will only remember your results. And when they speak of you, they will not talk about the nights you hesitated, the times you feared, the people you offended. They will speak only of what you achieved, what you carved into the stone of time. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Be both the fox and the lion. Use whatever means are necessary. For in the end, it is not kindness or fairness or purity that history crowns. It is victory." If this message spoke to you, if it ignited something in your chest, then don't let it die here. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video if it hit a nerve. Share it with someone who needs to wake up from their illusions, and leave a comment below. What are you willing to sacrifice for your vision? Remember, the world will not remember your excuses. The world will only remember your victories.